Boy, is it on the screen. Ooh.
Hey. We're here, but I gotta move the camera.
Oh, hi, Kim. Is that Kim?
Yeah, but you can see yet fix it, dude.
That's okay.
Dad, you want some coffee or something?
You probably already got some.
Or you already got some?
You did.
Okay.
I've already drank it.
All right, well, we don't eat in a few minutes.
All right, can you hear us?
Yeah.
All right. Let's have a look here. See what's going on. All right.
Somebody's coming. I can't tell.
Can you hear us, Kim?
Oh, Shayna, over there.
Hey, Miss Dana.
Don,
What is it?
will you go?
Yeah, you can get up and get your own coffee.
You want to get coffee?
Yeah, I will.
All right.
Bring it up. You know, a cup right here. And turn it into many cups.
Like this, I don't know. She's doing so much.
Can you hear us? Can you hear anything? Not speaking. Her audio's on, ours is on. Yeah, I can tell ours is on.
Might be able to call her, say I got a call and that's pretty dead. I had a battery and I had taken the back, so I think I needed it. Now I gotta go back and get it, now I can't find it.
Where's the phone? You need a battery for it?
Yeah, I have to get it.
Battery for what?
I got a car and it's just gonna give me a car.
Oh, congratulations.
That is your best friend.
Yes. I betcha.
I've known since college, so a
Oh,
long time.
I'm happy for you.
Kim's video froze and not so flattering in their picture.
I think last time we got was around $3.
I can get those for 80.
Where's that
Warehouse bags.
at? Oh, okay. I went to Batteries Plus and I think I'm, yeah, I know, but I can't trust nobody else at the moment.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then I went to Publix today and there's a limit on these soups you can buy. I mean, one can each time.
That's what they're
what?
doing to everybody.
Soup. Soup.
Yeah.
I went 2 nacho cheeses and 2 finger mushrooms.
And then she got reprimanded for going down the wrong way in the aisles. She was hot. She got home.
Oh,
They
somebody-
don't-
Oh, I didn't know there was a certain way you were supposed to.
I didn't
do
either.
that.
Publix is, they have,
I just went to Publix
they have X's on the floor at the beginning of the aisle and arrows
If
at
you want
the other
to-
side.
Well, I'm glad I don't go in.
I thought I'm not going that much to the other Publix store. Usually I can see the meat and a Campbell's soup. Come on. I said, well, can I have one of each, please? It's awful. And then, I mean, just started then.
You eat one
Was it
can.
awesome?
I guess so.
You can get one of each can of soup.
I was getting ready to
It's
pass
so
one,
long.
so I got out at one hand of each. I couldn't get two pieces of each.
Just have to tell them this ain't toilet paper.
No.
You know? Can you hear us, Kim? I don't know if she can see us either because she's not waving back. We're just gonna have to let them fool with it because I've unmuted her and it won't and she's got it muted on her end. But I tried. Well, school kind of ended with a whimper today. I was to have a meeting and wear this shirt. This is our COVID shirt, our distance learning 2020 shirt. We were supposed to take a group picture and that got thrown out. And principal said, well, do you have your check sheet finished? And I didn't, so I had to run around for about 15 more minutes and get people to sign it. And it turns out nobody can sign hardly anything. And turned in, she said, keep us informed, have a great summer. I said, we're done. I said, you're done. And I went to the English meeting, and I was supposed to go to the social studies meeting about 3 hours later, but I just didn't. So just went home, went to bed, took a nap. Checked in, and we've got to actually check in next 2 days. We're supposed to be working until Friday. But, it's not. You never know. We're. Are you texting somebody, Kim? Donna?
No.
Can you text her, say we can see her but not hear her, and she freezes? Let her know what's going on. Anyhow, I was gonna say, oh, and I'm not teaching any English at all next year as of now. And they're changing my government class to an 11th grade class. So I'm teaching 4 sections of world history and 2 sections of current issues, it's called, which is basically whatever I want it to be, I guess. Which is going to be great first semester because that's the election. There's going to be all kinds of issues to talk about. And then I went home. And the stuff they signed for, I just kept. My computer, my PBIS notebook, everything I'm supposed to keep track of all year, I just kept it. They were supposed to look through it all summer long and call me names and stuff and say nasty things about me, look at they did, and I got it sitting over there at the Sherwood House. They want to keep it. All right. Let's see. This is it's past time to start. All right. Yeah, would you lead us in a prayer, please?
Yes. Our Lord, most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this privilege we have to come together and worship you. We pray, dear Heavenly Father, that you be with us this evening and help us to do all things in accordance to your word and your will. Be with those who are sick, have to get well quickly. As those on the road, keep them safe, bring them back to us quickly. And it's through Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. We are in Revelation 20. I had only intended to do the first 7 letters to 7 churches, and people showed an interest, so I kept going. And it's about to end. Revelation 22 is the end, and we're in Revelation 20. All right, we began talking about this Sunday, and I had to look it up. There's this, and what I've heard about this is, and like I said, I've tried to temper everything and filter everything in here through 1:1, where it says these things must shortly come to pass. Well, what must shortly come to pass? Well, when the 1,000 years are completed, we talked about the 1,000 years. Those 1,000 years are what we're living in now. And that during this 1,000 years, Satan is bound. Well, he will be released from his prison, and he will come out and deceive the nations which are in the 4 corners of the earth. Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the war, the number of them is like the sand of the seashore. And they came up in the broad plain of the earth and surrounded the camp and the saints of the beloved city, and fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them was thrown in the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are also. And they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Now, this is most commonly interpreted as a final war between the forces of good and the forces of evil. The problem with that is it's been almost 2,000 years, and I don't see any way that the readers of Revelation would see that as shortly. He does mention some things at the judgment to let these people know, look, there's going to be an end to all of this, and you're going to win. But this is a more specific kind of thing. Well, Gog and Magog, there's in Hebrew history, there is a Gog who is kind of a renegade Jew. And then, oh, we've got a storm warning issued. You didn't know that already. Can't hear it. And, well, I'll tell you just exactly where it's found in a minute. It's actually in the Old Testament and also in the Quran. They're individuals in Ezekiel 38. Now, I'll have to admit, I'm not that up on Ezekiel. I haven't read or studied it too much. But he is Gog and Magog in the Hebrew Bible, the prophesied invader of Israel and the land from which he comes, respectively. Evil forces opposed to the people of God. Biblical references to Gog and Magog are relatively few. Now, Gog is a renegade. He is a descendant of a Jewish, the prophet Joel. Maybe there is a Gog mentioned as that, but this may not be the same one. But he is a chief and prince of the tribes of Meshech and Tubal in the land of Magog. And they are called upon to conquer the land of Israel when they were misbehaving. God confounds the invaders with a series of natural disasters, earthquakes, and things like that. And the children of Israel are victorious. Now, here you have a Roman Christian, or a Christian of the Roman Empire, be persecuted. Now, the parallel is that evil people are persecuting the people of God, and that God will overcome these evil people by his supernatural power. Now, again, why Gog and Magog? First of all, it looks like, it doesn't have to be from verse 8. It looks like these are two different people. Well, they're not. They're one guy and the land he comes from. And he was an evil guy in the Old Testament, and his land, or where he was prince, was an evil place. And they were trying to destroy the children of God. And they didn't do it because God used his power to conquer them. Now, here you are, you're a Jew during this time, and here's an overwhelming army coming to defeat you. Now, you don't know the end. All you are is living through the middle of it. What's going to happen? How are you going to feel? Well, how did we feel? The last couple of hurricanes were kind of a buzz, but when Matthew was coming and headed straight for Savannah, I can remember how scared we were. Don and I were at Logan's Roadhouse in Pooler watching. I can remember exactly where we were. I don't remember exactly the day, but she and I ate that night, and we were watching the TV, and the cone of uncertainty, when we sat down and began eating, Savannah was right in the middle of it. And by the time we finished eating, it had moved so far to the right that Savannah wasn't even in it anymore. Remember that night? And Donna was telling me how scared she was of the hurricane, this, that, and the other, and she should have been. And then by the time we finished eating, it had moved. But if you'll remember, how did we feel when the hurricane was coming? Not when it was here, not after it, but when it was on its way, how did we feel?
Now, prepared for
We weren't sure. It was the topic of, Hmm?
That's it's out of my hands, so whatever happens.
Yeah, well, we-
All I can do is prepare for it.
we're in the trailer, and we had at the time 3 older people and a whole bunch of dogs and a cat to get out of here, and we had no way to know how to do that. You know, we actually even considered getting a rider truck and putting everybody in the back on chairs and trying to sneak out, you know, that way illegally. We just decided we'll go over to the church building, and we did, and could have stayed in the house. Nothing happened to our trailer. But the thing is, the uncertainty, not knowing, and it looks like certain defeat. And then when it hit, it was horrible. And then after it left was some of the prettiest, nicest weather I think I've ever seen in this area before. It was a good thing because none of us had power and we had to leave the windows open. The thing is, though, as the threat is coming, how do you feel? It's a fear of the threat, but it's also a fear of the unknown. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Am I going to go outside? And I mean, the providence of God in this place was so evident. I mean, this big old tree back here, they destroyed the social hall. I mean, it's huge. We got to get it removed somehow. That tree that fell across my house could have just completely totaled out my house. It was horrible to look at, but it didn't. It was caught by another tree. How many times does that happen? And after the storm, I saw 2 trailers, maybe 3, with the same exact thing had happened and just sliced it right in 2. But then after it's over, you look back and you see the providence of God. Well, in this case, here these people are, this huge, big pagan horde is coming towards them. And, Kim left. This huge, big pagan horde left. And they, and they were, in the end, and we know, and this is the problem with us, though, we see the story from the end. These people are going through the story from the end. So you move, instead of Israel, you look at Christianity, and instead of Gog and Magog, you look at Rome and the huge, big power that they had. And people living in the time when this was written, what did it look like? Here's the threat coming. It's all around me. What am I going to do? And we humans, we have this idea that everything's going to be just like it is right now forever. If it's bad, it's going to be this way forever. If it's good, it's going to be this way forever. If it's okay, it's going to be okay forever. And the thing is, it doesn't happen that way. But what is he telling them? It's going to get better. It did in the past. Now, he's in prison. What are the Roman soldiers or the Roman guards of prison when they read his mail and they think about Gog and Magog? I mean, if you didn't know any of this Hebrew history, what would you think of John by now in prison? You know, probably the Romans thought, that old boy's been here too long. You know, he's going stir crazy. And that's kind of what he wanted to. All right, now look at what he talks about. And the battle never happens. Have you ever heard the Battle of Armageddon and how horrible it's going to be? And if you look at this, the battle never happens. In verse 9, and they came up. Oh, first of all, the number of them was like the sand of the seashore. That's a bunch. They came up on the broad plain of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city. And fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them was thrown in the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are also, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. The battle that everybody is talking about here never happened. There was no battle. As soon as they came within striking distance of the saints in the beloved city, fire came down out of heaven and devoured them. Then Satan who deceived them was thrown in the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and false prophet are also. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever. This is, of course, hell, but the lake of fire and brimstone. And this is pretty peculiar to Revelation, that the lake, you know, everywhere in a lake that there's water, picture fire. You know, everywhere in a lake that there's water, picture fire. I can remember was burning trash, and you put it in a bag, and I was lighting the trash, not realizing that part of it was lit. Part of that burning plastic hit me on the back of the finger right there. How bad does a burn hurt?
Real bad.
Burns hurt, and they keep hurting and keep hurting and keep hurting. In fact, in Kentucky, and there was something to part of this. A burn is going to hurt as long as there's heat in it. You got to draw the heat out. Now, in Kentucky, they had guys who were called fire talkers, who could talk the heat out of a burn. There's a lot of witchcraft in the mountains, but you know, all those things they tell you, put ice on it, put water, cold water, stuff like that, it does work. It'll take it out.
I'll tell you what takes it out the most, is vinegar. When Maggie would get burnt, I
Mhm.
put vinegar on the rag, and you can feel the heat just come out.
Come right out.
Yeah.
It would just work. I've been plagued with sunburns my entire life. And Donna's done this. She didn't believe it would work when I got sunburned, but it does. If you will barely touch that area, now not scratch it or not push it. Like everybody, have you never noticed when you got sunburned, everybody wants to touch it to make the white spot? You know, you do that once to see if you're burned, and then you don't do it again. If you barely touch it and drag your fingers around there, you can feel the heat coming out, just like you were saying with the vinegar. Another good thing to do is alcohol. Nobody believes that if the skin is not broken, alcohol will take the heat out. Alcohol for some reason takes heat out of everything, but you'll dry it out too much if you use too much of it. But yeah, vinegar. And another thing that I found, my mother figured out that she used when she was little, is an old product I think you can still buy called Campho-Phenique. It's made for itches and rashes and stuff like that. The Campho-Phenique, that oil camphor in there, will take anything like that that's a good conductor of heat to bring it out of that burn. The burn will go away. The heat will go away. The hurt, the pain will go away as soon as you get the heat out. However, what if you can't get the heat out? Now go back to my story about burning my finger. How much of my attention the rest of the night was on that finger? Just most of it, you know, most of it was on that finger because you got to wait till the heat comes out of it. When I was in college, I was a fry cook. We had 4 deep fryers. College kids eat a lot of fries and a lot of fried stuff. Chicken tenders, chicken nuggets. That was all meat. We had 4 deep fryers. Every night, we had one extra. You ever seen a big commercial deep fryer? It's about this big. We take the baskets out, and you take the whole tub out full of grease. I don't know why we did this every night. You could do it just as easily in the morning when the grease was cold. But you take it out, you pour it through a funnel with filter paper in it into the one clean one we had. And then the dishwasher would take it over, clean that one out, and that would become the clean one. And you do that for all 4. I was about halfway through, and I slopped that grease over these 3 fingers right here. I've never seen a blister like that formed. The blister was about 1 inch on top of each finger. That hurt all night long. And the only way I could keep from hurting was to put it in ice, in a bowl of ice, and when that ice melted, it hurt again. It took forever for that heat to come out. It finally did. It looked bad from then on, but it didn't hurt anymore. Think of what that would be like forever. Now, the other part of this, how many of you have ever gone out of your house on a nice cold morning and somebody was burning a fire in their fireplace? You can smell it, can't you? It's a pretty smell. Except in this case, the smell of fire is what is gonna happen.
So,
Yeah, brimstone is sulfur, which stinks. It doesn't matter anywhere you come close to sulfur, it stinks. It smells like rotten eggs, except worse. And this fire and brimstone is day and night forever and ever. Folks, I knew every time I burned myself, sunburn, anything else, it's gonna go away. Yeah, it's gonna go away eventually. It's not gonna last forever. In this case, it's gonna last forever. What would that be like? I mean, what would that be like to be going through this kind of torment and agony and have it lasting forever and ever and ever and ever and ever?
nothing to compare it to.
No, nothing.
There's nothing to compare it
Nothing whatsoever. Now, I saw a great white throne, and him who sat upon it, from whose presence earth and heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, the great and the small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged from the things which are written in the books according to their deeds. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead which were in them. And they were judged, every one of them according to their deeds. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. All right. The sea, death and Hades, everything is giving up the dead which were in them. Who was it? Wade Sunday morning was asking about cremation and stuff like that. Yeah, it's possible when you're cremated, and it's, in fact, it's going to happen. It's not possible. It's a fact. When you're cremated, you're going to be raised. How did they kill Christians a lot of times in the first century, the Romans? They burned them. So if you're going to say that you can't, anyway, it works. And all the dead are going to be there, and the dead which were in them, and every one of them, they were judged according to their deeds. Well, the books were open. Do any of y'all have a set of books for your finances? You're supposed to. How many of you write the check number and the date and who it's to in your checkbook? I don't even do that because most of the stuff we do is online, so I know the balance every day. I have to wait till the end of the month to know. So I quit doing that, and I'm not going to go back. I don't like balancing checkbooks. Never did, and it always works out. You know, if it's too low, it gives me an email, and I go find some money and put it in there. In fact, the only way I use checks anymore, very rarely do I ever use a check. But my contribution here, I'm given a check, and that's about it. Every now and then, that's one way you can do it. You know, you can give a check, but honestly, it doesn't happen very often. I pay my taxes with a check. You know, when you have to put your car tax on, I pay that with a check. Very rarely, we rarely order checks. I may have to because I don't think I have any for Sunday. But I ran out last Sunday. One book of checks lasts forever anymore. They didn't used to. I like online because my account number is on that check. You know. I keep books for other things. We're supposed to keep track of our parent contacts and stuff like that. I do that. I kept track of my e-learning contact, but I can't see them. They're in Google Form. They can see them and see how well I did. But, you know, the point I'm making is this. This is what it is. The books. The books of our life. Now, I think we oversimplify these books many times. you know, you put it's not, I don't know if it's particularly a scale. You put a good deed here, a bad deed there, good, whichever one's heaviest is at the end. I don't think that's the way it's worked. I think it's just a way of keeping track. If you're found to be judged faithful, then your name is written in the book of life. I think they happen simultaneously. Now, if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown in the lake of fire. And people have called this the heavenly accounting. That could be it. I would say it's the heavenly audit. You know, that's the heavenly audit. We're chapter 21. Then I saw a new heaven and new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth passed away, and there is no longer any sea. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is among men, and he will dwell among them, and they shall be his people, and God himself will be among them. And he will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no longer any death. There will no longer be any death. There will no longer be any mourning or crying or pain. The first things have passed away. Now, think about it for a minute. What does that in Old Testament history sound like? What is all this business about the tabernacle of God is among men? He will dwell among them. They shall be his people, and God himself will be among them. When did that happen in the Old Testament?
Everything is over.
When did it happen in the Old Testament?
Sorry.
When did it happen in the Old Testament? When did God and man live together? In the Garden of Eden.
Creation.
Garden of Eden. For how long? Don't know. Doesn't say. Could have been 100 years, could have been 2 years, could have been a month, could have been 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years. I don't know. But this is the effect. If you say that the tabernacle of God is among men, and he will dwell among them, and they shall be his people, and God himself will be among them, and he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will no longer be any death. There will no longer be any mourning or crying or pain. The first things have passed away. This is what happens when God lives with you. Physically. No more tears, no more death, no mourning, no crying or pain. Everything that causes any of those things will be passed away. I've gone. And think about that for a minute. Think about the things that cause tears and death and mourning and crying and pain. All of those things, they no longer exist. They're not going to happen.
There's nothing to compare that to either.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you think about it, Eddie DeLoach and now Van Johnson, they're both doing the same thing as that. Kind of like this. What's that? I had to teach this, by the way, in the teaching the Fifth Amendment. It's called eminent domain. In Savannah, downtown, pretty Savannah, there's some derelict, horrible houses, eyesores, rat traps, drug dens. What is the city doing with these houses? They're condemning them and bulldozing them. Now, when they condemn them and they bulldoze them, where are they? They're gone. I mean, I'm not going to make a comparison to this. They're not completely eradicated. They're somewhere. The pieces of them are somewhere, but they're gone. They're there. So you have an ugly street full of ugly, derelict houses falling in, boarded up. Isn't it tacky? Where they always put those boards in those little bitty vents at the top, you know? What happens after they're finished? With a beautiful, historic city again. Because they'll bulldoze them down and they'll put up nice homes. There'll be a beautiful street again. When I first moved here back in '92, one of the most dangerous places you could go was River Street and Bay Street in downtown Savannah. Now, I see people with families and their kids playing out there in some of the parks and stuff that have been, because all those old places have been renovated or are bulldozed away and new things are there. And it's just absolutely wonderful now. It's a family place. I'm not saying there's still not crime, but boy, if you see any down there, there's always police all over it. It's one of those police areas in the country. It's a beautiful place now. Why? Because they've attempted to get rid of the bad things that have gone away. You know? That's that's a very small illustration. That would be what heaven is going to be. Now, let's quit here because this is going to get into what I want to talk about Sunday morning. Y'all have any comments or questions or anything you'd like to say? I mean, how big of a deal is this? What would your life be here if all of a sudden everything that caused anything negative was gone? Be close, or it might be on the way. I wouldn't even say close, but if you think about it, if that, and it's not, but if that's all heaven was an end to sadness and death and pain, would you want to go?
Watch people that you've seen suffer and to see that not be, I can't imagine.
If this was all it was, if this is all there was, and it's not, there's going to be more to it later, but if this is all there was, and that death is gone, pain is gone,
I can't imagine.
fear is gone, sadness is gone.
To me, it's probably in itself just to have that pain and that sorrow. That's how that's how I have it.
Well, if that's, and it's going to be even better than
That's
that,
what I'm saying.
you know,
If I could just get that done,
that would be enough.
that would be enough. Exactly.
It would be to me too. I mean, y'all know, and I've told the story 100 times. I won't read. Kentucky did it. Living there in the mountains, I loved it. It was pretty, but one thing they did bad to me, death is a bigger deal to me than it is to most people. And people say it's a big deal. It's an even bigger deal to me because of what they did to me. The mountain people, and I don't think they intended it to, but their culture makes death a big deal, even a bigger deal than we do. Funerals last a week. If people are there screaming and shouting every night, and I still have a big thing about it. I never got over it. If that was gone, I would want to go. I try my best not to get in any situation that's going to cause me any kind of physical pain whatsoever. If you're going to do surgery on me, you better put me to sleep. You know, I'm not going to sit there and I know I saw Criminal Minds Derek, and I saw Rambo one time refuse to take anesthetic when they were sewing him up and putting in stitches. That ain't me. If all pain was gone, emotional and physical, that'd be enough. I mean, and sadness and worry and anxiousness, if that was all gone, if those things were gone, that would be great. But it's going to be even more than that. But that would be plenty for me to want to go. Now, for a place just talking about like that had all those things gone, what would it be worth giving up? What's the most miserable place you can think of? Think about it. Some place you would go which is absolute misery. I'm thinking prison. People who live in abject misery. Now I want you to picture yourself, not yourself, I want you to picture a person in a cell, laying on his bunk. What would he, and looking at the wall, what would he give for a door? Whatever he had. I mean, honestly, if he could walk out of that cell. Folks, have you ever been inside a jail visiting someone before? I've been inside many of them. I have a fear about that too. It's a weird feeling. I remember the first time I ever went, I had this feeling when the door clanged shut behind me and I knew I couldn't get out. That has never left me. It has never ever left me. What would that person in jail give for a door? Would that be the end to all physical pain and suffering? No, but that would be the end to the main thing causing them suffering and discomfort and upset now, right?
But some of them, they do that, they get out, they have another chance, and they decide that.
They go right back in.
Go back in.
I can promise you that would not be me.
Because that's all they know.
Yeah, they call it being institutionalized.
There's so long, until they don't know the way to life.
I can't imagine that being my goal in life. There's no way. I like my freedom way too much.
But the reason they're there is it's sometimes more complicated than it can be addiction or whatever. They don't fix that part of it, they just give them freedom,
Mhm.
okay, and decide when it's time for them to go. They still have that problem on the outside.
And a lot of times I think they can get through that jail part because they know it's temporary. But these long-term guys, ladies that are in prison, they're a little different. They know they're never going to get out.
And the homeless people, a lot of their problems are, they're sick, they're medically,
Mhm.
emotionally, they're sick. And that's the reason they can't hold on to job and they're not fixing the problems.
I've had some kids go to YDC, and they come back after a month or two, and they say, "Oh, it wasn't any problem. It wasn't that big of a deal." But I also have some friends that work there, and I said, "Do you remember this kid?" Yeah, he cried like a baby every day. I would. I mean, I would do anything. In fact, just kill me. I don't want to go in there with those people. I mean, I've seen the things they do, and I've seen the way they live. I think that's the worst part of our jails. People talk about, oh, well, we just put them in there and give them food and give them TV and all this kind of stuff. Think of who you got to live with.
That's really, most people, you are moving.
Would you want to move into a neighborhood that had them people in it? I mean, I wouldn't buy a house there. I wouldn't make that choice. But anyhow, what I'm saying is this: if that was all heaven was, I think we'd be a fool not to want to go. The lady that comes by and takes care of Donna's mom, Patsy. Donna and I have talked about her so many times. The hospice nurses. Why anyone would want to do that? I'm glad there are people that want to do that job. Why would you?
From heaven.
Why would you want to do that job? I mean, I'm glad people do. I'm glad there are folks that do
I
want
can
to
see
do it.
where they come from. They want to touch someone.
Well, what I was going to say about her, I don't know if she was your dad's nurse or not, but Sherry has two jobs. She's a hospice nurse, but she also is a neonatal nurse. She's there at the beginning and there at the end.
She worked in the Army hospital too, and she's worked at Hollywood Field.
Mhm.
Her husband,
It's so if you think about it for a minute, it seems like you would have to have that job to have the other job. I can't imagine walking into that every single day. But now there are some that do. And that find their purpose there and can do it. And I'm glad those people exist. I'm not criticizing them. I don't think I could be one.
Because something I don't have.
I don't either. There's no way I could do that every day. And then the social worker that works there, that's what he's got to deal with, is people that are sad all the time. All right, I said we were going to quit. We're going to quit. What's the invitation? 128. And it seems to me, when we talk about, and this actually has to do with what we're going to say and see. When we talk about what would it be worth for heaven? Sometimes I think we as people, I'm talking about we, the 5 of us. I'm talking about we as people, the whole planet included. I think we sell our salvation pretty cheaply. I don't think we look at it as what we would be glad to give up. I think we look at it as being a Christian makes you give up so much. I don't think being a Christian makes you give up all that much at all. And I don't think it makes you give up anything that's going to make your life better. The Christian life is a wonderful one. Sacrifices that you're not only required to make, but that you're glad to make. They're worth it. So, if for any reason you stand in need, what number is it? Did you say your number? Oh, you did? As together we stand and as we sing.
Oh, in the grave he lay, Jesus, my Savior, waiting the coming day. Jesus, my Lord. Up from the grave he arose, where the mighty triumph for his foes. He arose a victor from the dark domain, and he lives forever with his saints to reign. He arose, hallelujah, Christ arose. Shall we pray? Almighty God and Father of all, we look forward to being at home with you. While we're here, Father, we have many things that we'd like to ask. Please take care of those who are sick, those who are troubled, those who are ill. Father, we ask that you'll bless each and every one of those as only you can. Pray that you'll dismiss us from this place, but never from thy presence. God, guard and direct us all throughout the days of our lives. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right, Donna brought over some stuff to eat. I want y'all to stay for a couple minutes if you can and take home some because there's more than there is people here. Need to pray for all those we need to pray for. I have not heard from Vicki and Lynn at all. Kim has tried. Not really sure. I've sent him a couple of letters. I haven't received anything back. So, of course, I have not been able to go to the post office the past 3 days. Don and I both. Mine's about gone. I think now still hasn't touched it. It's not contagious, but it's a stomach thing that you can't get rid of. And mine's about gone now. But yesterday, I couldn't do a thing. I was supposed to make a call Monday. I was supposed to make a call Tuesday. I forgot both of them.
Well, did anybody see the pink stuff they put in the sky yesterday?
No.
I don't know what they did.
Oh.
And,
That wasn't a storm or?
No. I don't know if it's chemicals or it's not.
I don't know.
I'm sure we're supposed to have.
Yeah.
Anything?
Well, she said, I guess somebody took her because she said her car was there all day. Who did? Robin. Okay. So we haven't heard a thing. Mary would probably know too, I would think. Is there anything else we can talk about? All right, folks, let's,
Let's go eat.
Family one.
yeah,
That'll be-
yes, we got surprised before that way.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we'll go.
I'm sorry, I lost it.
That's all right, I'll walk around and come back.
Thank you so much.